Welcome to the Mongabay Newscast. It's November 11th, 2020, and I'm your host, Mike Gurecki, bringing you the news and inspiration from nature's front line. Today we're looking at conservation of Madagascar's fauna and flora, and we've even got some recordings of Madagascar's most famous fauna, lemurs, to listen to. We welcome to the show Jeannie Raharimampionana, a botanist and conservationist in Madagascar who recently won the National Geographic Buffett Award for leadership in conservation in Africa. Raharimampionana tells us about Madagascar's rich biodiversity of plant life, including numerous endemic species found nowhere else on Earth, and discusses the 11, but soon-to-be 12, protected areas that her work has helped to establish. We also speak with Valeria Torti, a research technician at Italy's University of Turin, whose work is focused on critically endangered indri lemurs in the forests of Madagascar's Maromizaha region. Torti tells us about the threats indri lemurs are facing and plays for us a number of recordings of their calls, like this one. Protected areas in Madagascar have tended to focus on ecotourism and preserving fauna, especially the lemurs, for which the island nation is most closely identified. And they haven't necessarily taken into account flora. Yet, according to the US-based Missouri Botanical Garden, more than half of all plant species in Madagascar are facing the threat of extinction. And many of those plants are endemic species that are found only in Madagascar. Jeannie Raharimampionana first joined the Missouri Botanical Garden's Madagascar program in 1999. She says that it was the first institution to encourage Malagasy youth to consider careers in botany. Today, she is the Conservation Unit Coordinator for the Missouri Botanical Garden, Madagascar. The time she spent in the field quickly convinced Raharimampionana that Madagascar's flora were in desperate need of conservation intervention, so she and her team identified 80 priority areas for plant conservation. 11 of those areas have become protected areas, with a 12th soon to follow.
I am a botanist. My background is on systematic biology, on systematic botany. So I am graduate from the University of Madagascar. So right after my graduation, I started with Missouri Botanical Garden, working on the database on plants. And that means that we collecting plants in the field, sample of plant, then putting the information on this plant on a database called Tropicos. Tropicos is a large botanical database in the world managed by Missouri Botanical Garden, and it's a worldwide information. So my work focused on putting the information on description of the plant, on the location of the plant. That's my very, very first task within MBG.
That's MBG as in Missouri Botanical Garden.
So once we have a very big information, the amount of the data has really increased within the database for the flora of Madagascar. In 2000, we started to analyze this data to identify priority areas for plant conservation. So we identified about 80 priority areas for plant conservation using all of the location, the data on this sample of plant collecting from the field and all the historical information on plants at the herbariums, on the national herbariums, Paris Herbarium and Missouri Botanical Garden Herbarium. So all of this information have been analyzed to identify the 80 priority areas for plant conservation. And then we had in Madagascar the government engagement for the Durban Vision.
The Durban Vision was a pledge made by the Malagasy government at the IUCN's World Parks Congress held in Durban, South Africa in 2003 to more than triple the country's network of protected areas.
We decided as a Malagasy to be involved and to engage ourselves as Malagasy to be on the ground conservation. This is a real initiative from the Malagasy here within the Missouri Botanical Garden in Madagascar. And the headquarters in St. Louis guide us and accept this initiative of Madagascar, of the Malagasy staff. So starting at this point, at this time, I really engage myself on the conservation of these priority of the protected areas. So we jump on the opportunities from the Madagascar engagement to include the first time in Madagascar plant information to identify the potential areas for new protected areas.
What were the criteria you used for identifying these priority areas?
We did use many criteria, such as the number or the endemicity, the degree of endemicity of the plant and the vegetation, the flora, the rarity of the species or rarity of the vegetation. We combined also some attributes from the environment. So we combined the climate, humidity, soil. So we used we called bioclimate characters. So if a species is the location included high endemism, rare species, threatened species, and very high specific in the physical condition.
So endemicity was one of your criteria, which makes sense because there's a high degree of endemicity in Madagascar's plant life, right?
Yes, especially we included all of this. If we take one by one all of these sites, we can have, for example, the local endemism for plants. That's our first criteria for MBG to include as criteria for protected area. So among the 80 priority areas for plant conservation, MBG selected 11 of them to be engaged on the process on creation of protected area. And there we put the high priority for those sites who has local endemism on plants. So you may have one site which has maybe 10 or 20 or plant known only from that site.
Would you tell us about one or two of your favorite endemic species or one or two of the key endemic species to protect?
For example, one of the sites in the north, the name is Uruntia. We can have one species really used for the canoe for fishermen. The name of the species is, the Malagasy name is Hazundrangula, but the scientific name is Delonyx velutina, very rare and threatened, and is listed within species on the IUCN Red List. Another one maybe I would like to mention, maybe in the highland of Madagascar, the central highland of Madagascar, in a little gallery forest, we have one species called in Malagasy Suhiskia. The scientific name is Schizolaena tempketsana, and it's locally endemic, not really used for communities, but very threatened with fire. And in the beginning, we found only about 100 left in the landscape.
You mentioned that species is threatened by fire. What are the main threats in general to Madagascar's flora, and what are the overall conservation trends for plants?
That's a big question. Yeah, in Madagascar, we are the best estimation from Missouri Botanical Garden is about 14,000 species of plant. I mean the flower plants, about 14,000. That's estimation. And we still discover new species. The threat in Madagascar is about fire and logging. Also, we have some problem with the mining exploitation. So all of these species, the very big, really problem now is the fire, because it can really make hundreds of clearing of surfaces. And for now, we don't know even if some species are already gone without knowing the name. The research is still slow. Yes, we are continuing to make discovery, but the fire and all of this logging, we cannot really control them. So it's a sad story if some of these species disappear in the world, not only disappear from Madagascar, but disappear from the world without really we know their name. That's really sad story for the world.
So you identified 80 priority areas in total, and 11 of them have been made into protected areas at this point?
Yes, exact. And one is still ongoing process.
Can you tell us a bit about the design of those 11 areas and how well they're working so far?
In 2009, Missouri Botanical Garden decided to create the conservation unit. That's where I am working now. So I was the first created this unit, and I still managing this unit. So our objective is to conserve the 80 priority areas for plant conservation, but we were only able to do 11 because of finance, because of the resource to human and finance to protect them. But our objective is really to go all of these 80. So within the context of Madagascar to triple the surfaces of protected area in Madagascar, we follow the process designed by the minister, which take us until 2015. So all of these 11 are now on they got the final decree to designate them as official protected areas. Most of them fall into the classification 5 and 6 of the IUCN protected areas. That means harmonious landscape and protected area for natural resource management.
According to the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, or IUCN, protected area category 5 includes areas where the interaction of people and nature has produced distinct character with significant ecological, biological, cultural, and scenic value, while category 6 protected areas include sustainable use of natural resources.
They are managed by communities and not really strict, but has some utilization zones identified inside the protected areas. We have also one type of protected area that fall into the category 3. That means natural heritage.
Category 3 protected areas are set aside to protect a specific natural monument.
3 of them, maybe the remaining of them are special reserve managed for the biodiversity and the ecological services. For MBG and the conservation unit, we have a principle of community-based conservation. So all of our work we are doing with the community. We really have the strong conviction that we cannot conserve the forest in Madagascar without working with the community around or surrounding all of these forests, because they are really living within the landscape with the forest. So they are our partner in the area. So the community-based conservation is our main focus and our main principle in these protected areas.
How close is the 12th protected area to becoming a reality?
We are waiting for the minister because of a changing in the administration. We don't know when we can have a decree.
So you mentioned that community-based management of the protected areas is your main operating principle, but you're also in particular training women for key roles, right?
We love to work with vulnerable people in different protected areas. We are active on the ground. Even when we recruit staff for the sites, we are not making any difference for women or for the men. So we make available all the ads for male or female. We have many association, women association within our protected areas. Maybe it's very strange, but we think that these women are very meticulous. So one kind of very success activity with those women are the nursery. We give some training on nursery. That means seedling production. But women are very meticulous. So maybe because they are mother, they can really take care of these seedlings. It's like a baby. So they really can have a good success on nursery and the production of seedlings. Another success with women is now we are trying to make these women engaged for policing, making some patrols, but not really with the physical patrolling around the forest, but as someone coordinating the community patrollers. So we look for example, for a teacher in the primary school, asking them for 2 days during the week to work, to organize people, to record the data, to deal with the finance. And it's a new approach that really the women, they are really enthusiastic to do this kind of organization. And we have a good success with the patrolling with the women in the organization, in the payment, in all of the details of reporting, in the communication within the community. That is really a very good work with the women. Yes, of course, we have association for weaving, doing some activity for revenue, but these are classical activities for women.
You just received the National Geographic Buffett Award for Leadership and Conservation in recognition of your work. What does that mean to you and your team?
Wow, it's a big honor. I really didn't expect to have it in my life. I really thank my boss for making me the space to work for MBG and giving me really opportunity to grow up myself and my team inside a very correct and very nice environment. They always give me space to work and being creative, being really innovative in everything. So this award is really, for me personally, I don't know, it's not the end of my work. It said to me, Jeannie, you have started something, you are on the right orientation. Maybe I can say I am not wrong to select my passion and to continue to have my passion on conservation, on biodiversity, on the next generation, on the heritage of Madagascar, because this is for me the word linked to this award. I am not exception. I am not exceptional in this because there is my team, there is MBG, and in Madagascar, I think there are so many wonderful women engaged in conservation. There are so many women Malagasy working on the ground, and I see them on their work. They are really doing good thing. So this is a word on my name, but I see all the women in Madagascar working hardly for the conservation of the biodiversity in this award.
Do you aim to get all 80 of the priority areas you identified turned into protected areas?
You know, as I told you, it's not yet finished. We identified 80 priority areas for plant conservation. I would really love to see all of them as protected areas. So that's really a target in the long term. But also, I would like to tell you that in Madagascar, during my time in university, we are not really as much as the young people now working on plants, working on the environment, working on biodiversity conservation. So when I see all of these young people around me, I really have a good hope that they will continue to make good things, to make progress, and to protect the Malagasy heritage. And it's our responsibility as a Malagasy to do the work on conservation. I'm not saying that we don't need foreigners or we don't need other people, but it's time for us as a Malagasy to take our responsibility to do our conservation of our natural heritage.
While Jeannie Raharimampionana's work is finally giving Madagascar's flora the conservation attention it needs, the island's iconic lemurs have been the target of numerous conservation interventions. Yet they are also facing grave threats and in need of further protection. Indri lemurs, for instance, are critically endangered. Valeria Torti is a research technician with the Ethology and Bioacoustic Labs of the Department of Life Sciences and Systems Biology at the University of Turin in Italy. But her work is focused on indri lemurs in the forests of Maromizaha.
Maromizaha has been declared officially a new protected area in 2015, and it's a primary rainforest, and it has been conserved since the 2008. And it's now managed by the GERP, that is the Groupe d'études et de recherche sur les primates de Madagascar, that is the Association of Primatologists in Madagascar.
A recent study you were part of looked at social and spatial dynamics within groups of indris and between different groups. What did you find, and how might those findings help conserve the species?
Our recent findings concerning territorial behavior in indris helped us know how the species occupy the territories, and they have also helped us know something about the intergroup dynamics in these species. We know that indris are actively territorial, so they defend their territories and their home ranges, and they from the incursions from conspecifics.
Conspecifics is, of course, just the scientific term for members of the same species.
And so being a territorial species, a lot of different dynamics are involved. The indris, for example, use their songs in order to advertise the neighboring conspecifics about the occupation of a territory. They sometimes meet at the territorial boundaries, and so there could be some territorial encounters in which the neighboring groups can meet and they can actively fight, for example, for the territories. By chasing, by fighting, by biting themselves, or they can just start what we call song battles, for example.
Another recent study you were part of looked at how male and female adult indris differ in organizing the phrases in their songs. Tell us what you found.
The indri is not sexually dimorphic in what concerns their morphology, but they are sexually dimorphic in their songs. What does this mean? This means that females and males emit different song units. And for example, the notes emitted by the males are more modulated in frequency, while the notes emitted by the females reach higher frequency levels, and they sound completely different. This kind of dimorphism in the song emission is also reflected at the structure level. So the indri song is a complex sequence of utterances that are emitted in a coordinated manner by all the group members. The structure of the indri song is quite the same in all the different types of songs. We have an introductory phase that is composed by a series of harsh notes that are called roars, that are followed by long notes, whose duration is quite the twice the duration of the notes that are following. And those long notes are especially emitted by males. Then there is the proper song, that is a part composed by what we call descending phrases, that are a succession of notes in which every note has a frequency that is lower than that of the previous unit. And the dimorphism in the overall structure of the song is given by the fact that, apart from the differences in the single units, the phrase structure of the songs varies between reproductive males and females. Female structuring of the song showed a higher number of phrases, for example, if compared to that of males. And male contribution to the song were overall more similar than those of other males if we compare to females with other females. And we also found that male contributions were more stereotyped than female contributions. So we can state that female songs show greater individuality and greater individual flexibility if compared to that of males.
All right, well, we've got a number of recordings of indri songs to listen to today so our listeners can hear for themselves what you're talking about. Tell us what we're going to hear in this first clip.
So the first clip we are listening is part of a duet emitted by the reproductive pair of a family group of indris in the Maromizaha forest in eastern Madagascar. This clip make us hear the overall song structure that is, as I told you before, is made by a brief introductory series of roars followed by long notes that are particularly emitted by males. And then we successively can hear the proper song, that is a succession of notes in which every note has a frequency that is lower than that of the previous unit. And this is a duet, so we have an adult male and an adult female singing.
Let's give it a listen.
From our studies, we found that songs have a consistent sex, group, and individual-specific features that could help us to infer about the groups and population composition. And we also found that there is a significant correlation between genetic distance between individuals and between members of each family group, and the acoustic similarities of their notes. And this is especially true for the notes composing the descending phrases. These notes inform about genetic relatedness that is especially true for males. Male vocal signatures have been indicated as an important mechanism for inbreeding avoidance, and what we think is that the fact that male songs convey generic information may help females in avoiding mating with related males. And this is, in fact, functional in a species that form long-term bonds like the indris, and in a species in which extra pair copulation may occur, as we have observed, for example, in Maromizaha, and those providing the females with the potential to discriminate with related males could be very interesting for increasing level of genetic diversity in the population.
Okay, so tell us about the second clip we're going to hear.
The second clip is what we call a chorus, that is a song in which more than two individuals participate. In this clip, we are listening to a part of a song emitted by the reproductive pair and their young daughter. The structure of the song is always the same, but we have one more individual of the same sex, in this case a female, that is singing with the mother. And during choruses, when two indris of the same sex sing, they could both sing together or alternate their contribution during the song. So in this case, we have a daughter that is 1 year old, so she's singing by partially overlapping the mother. And we think that this could also help the youngster individual to start to sing in a proper way this kind of different and difficult, very complex signal.
All right, we'll give it a listen. So those first two clips helped introduce indri song in general and the information you're able to derive from the songs about the lemurs' behaviors and group composition. Now we have two files to help demonstrate that indris actually have three different songs with different functions.
So the first two songs we have heard were two advertisement songs. The indris emit these kind of songs every day, especially in the morning during the daily ranging through their territories. The advertisement song has the function to advertise neighboring groups of conspecifics about the occupancy of a territory. And so they convey a message that is something like, this is my home and you cannot enter here. On the contrary, the third clip represents what we call a cohesion song. A cohesion song is given when individuals from the same group are not in visual contact with each other, and this is because sometimes they separate while ranging through their territories. In this situation, indris often start to sing this kind of song that we call cohesion song in order to locate with the other individuals and to start rejoining. And this kind of song is a little bit different from the previous one because it is characterized by a shorter duration, by scant overlap between notes, and by longer pauses between different utterances.
All right, we'll give that one a listen. Tell us about this fourth clip we've got to listen to.
The last clip is, on the contrary, is the third type of song that we have described in the indris, that is the so-called territorial songs. Territorial songs are emitted during active territorial defense whenever a social group come into direct contact with a neighbor at the shared territorial boundaries. As I told you before, the indris are actively defending their territories, and so they are not very happy when a group of conspecifics enter their territories, and so sometimes they can have encounters that can be fights, or that can be just singing battles. And the territorial song starts when there is a direct confrontation between two different groups. And during territorial songs, all the individuals are singing together, so there is a huge overlap between individual contributions. And all group members participate in the chorus, and there is no rules about alternating the individual contribution in the song. Male units are longer if compared to the units that are uttered in the advertisement and in the cohesion song. And this mirrors the fact that the adult males in indris are responsible for territorial defense and are also more engaged during fights in comparison to females and to youngster individuals.
Okay, here's that territorial song. We actually do have one more clip to play. This one illustrates the role that bioacoustics play in conservation and wild indri population management. Can you tell us about that?
The last song clip is a recording made with an automated recorder in the Maromizaha forest, in the Maromizaha new protected area. We have started using passive acoustic monitoring to monitor the indri population, but also to have information about the sound biodiversity in the forest and about ecoacoustics. Given the fact that we are able to derive a lot of different information from the songs of the indris, in particular about sex of individuals, about individual features like something like a vocal fingerprints of the individuals, we would like to apply this kind of information to the conservation efforts in order to protect the species. What we would like to do is to apply passive acoustic monitoring techniques to monitor indri populations in order to infer about the species abundance, the distribution and the population composition of the indris on the basis of the information we can derive from the bioacoustics studies of the signals. And we would like to contribute to the first national assessment of the real indri population trend by establishing a national network and to enhance conservation efforts in Madagascar. This will be particularly important because indris are classified as critically endangered by the IUCN, and the last assessment for the species has identified the need for more accurate estimates of abundance and distribution, as well as we would like to plan more accurate action for its conservation. And we think that quantifying the songs in this particular way, so through the passive acoustic monitoring, will help us to have access to a lot of different data that are not used for now.
All right, we'll give a listen to this recording from the Passive Acoustic Monitoring Array. So bioacoustics are vital to both researching and conserving indri lemurs.
Yeah, exactly. So this is quite new, a quite new methodology, but is now widespread techniques for monitoring wild populations. And the fact is that it is applicable on a large scale. It's applicable in the long term and at sustainable cost. So it could be very useful for monitoring wild population of animals that are rare, for example, that are elusive, or like in the case of the indris, that are not so easy to habituate to the human presence. In Maromizaha, for example, we have now 12 indri habituated groups, but this required an effort of more than 10 years. So being able to study population without having a big impact on them could be very helpful for planning more strategical efforts for conservation.
What are the main threats to indris?
The main threats to the indri populations are habitat loss. That is the first, I can say, and differently from other lemur species that they are not hunted because they are preserved by the Malagasy fadi, that are a traditional way to see those kind of lemurs as special, because they are considered like the ancestors of the human population in Madagascar. Actually, the chase and hunting of the indris has started recently after the political crisis that affected the country in 2009. So the main threat are these two: are habitat loss and bushmeat, chase for bushmeat.
You're also involved in some projects that aim to empower local communities in the Maromizaha forests. What are those communities' relationships with indris?
We are trying to make efforts to involve the local communities in order to protect not just the indris, but for example all the other lemur species we have in Maromizaha and in the Andasibe area. This is important because the population doesn't have a negative approach to the forest. They don't have a negative approach towards the lemurs, but sometimes they are just cut it out from every action that was performed in their neighborhood. So our main goal is to build capacities in the population to help the population gaining profit from the conservation activities there. And we are trying to involve also school children, because they have sometimes they don't have any idea about the biodiversity they have near their houses, and they are pretty good in being involved and involving their parents and in activities that are targeting conservation. So it's really important for us to develop activities that can help local population to grow and to make them aware about the importance of protecting their environments. So we are targeting actions not only in pure research, but also we are trying to develop capacity building activities, educational training for the school children, and we are also investing in agricultural development.
So community-based conservation is key in Maromizaha.
Yeah. The fact also that the Maromizaha forest is ruled and managed by an association based in Madagascar is something that is very, very important.
So what's next for your work in the region? What are you working on now?
We are now concentrating on developing models for population density estimation, not just for the indris, but for every species that contributes to the biodiversity of the forest in the Maromizaha NAP. And we are continue our studies to deepen our knowledge about the indri song, but not also the song, also all the other aspects of the ecology and the ethology of the species, because knowing the species is very important to develop effective conservation strategies. And we are deepening also our knowledge about the effect of the noise and the forest environment on the vocal behavior of the species by trying to understand how the song spread into the environment and how those intergroup dynamics that we have talked earlier may have a role, for example, in the formation of new pair. And this could be very helpful also in the conservation terms, because knowing how the indri disperse, knowing how they form new pairs may help us in protecting the species more efficiently.
If you enjoy the Mongabay Newscast, we ask that you please help spread the word by telling a friend. That's the best way to help expand our reach and keep the show growing. For instance, if you know somebody who's really into Madagascar conservation, send them this episode. Another way to help is by becoming a monthly sponsor via our Patreon page at patreon.com/Mongabay. We are a nonprofit news outlet, so just $1 or more per month will really help us offset production costs and hosting fees. Supporters at the $10 a month level also get access to our members-only insider content. So if you're a fan of our audio reports from Nature's Front Line, please head to patreon.com/Mongabay to learn more and support the Mongabay Newscast. You and whoever you tell about this podcast can subscribe to the Mongabay Newscast on the Google Podcasts app, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Pandora, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Or you can download our new app for Apple and Android devices. Just search either app store for the Mongabay Newscast app to gain fingertip access to new shows and all our previous episodes. And of course, you can read all of our news and inspiration from Nature's Frontline at mongabay.com. Or if you prefer to keep up with us on social media, follow us at facebook.com/Mongabay or on Twitter and Instagram. Our handle is @Mongabay on both those platforms. Thanks as always for listening to the Mongabay Newscast. I'm your host, Mike Gurecki, signing off. Talk to you again in 2 weeks.